Good morning and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our daily get together here on Facebook, where we take a look at headlines, stories, comments, ideas, suggestions on how to best take advantage of Puerto Vallarta as a destination for English speaking locals. If you're new to these broadcasts, a couple of things. My name is Paco, and we love it when you let us know that you're new by writing the word new in the comments section. Secondly, we're usually live, but as you know, we've been talking about this for a few days. I am away on vacation for 3 days, so this would be my second pre-recorded broadcast. Tomorrow is Thursday, and tomorrow we'll be back to our daily live broadcasts, which you can enjoy every morning at 10:30 here on Facebook, and then you can catch the broadcast later on Facebook or YouTube if you so desire. As I mentioned a few days ago, yesterday was all about taking a walking tour down the Isla Rio Cuale, and I certainly hope you enjoyed that. And today, as I promised, this is a strictly music episode. Now, I may sound like a broken record, but I often say how music appreciation workshops have been a very important part of my life here in Puerto Vallarta as a musician. I've enjoyed doing workshops for the longest time, and I've had the pleasure of doing those in both educational environments, as in schools, and also at some of the venues here in town, like Encanto and The Palm and so forth. Needless to say, due to the pandemic, it's been difficult to do this. And then, of course, doing it online is always complicated because it's difficult to share musical fragments without getting flagged by the copyright gods, both on Facebook and on YouTube. So today I'm going to talk about a few things that I've found on YouTube that have caught my attention in the last few weeks that you might enjoy. So today is going to be about 4 awesome things that I found on YouTube. And I'm going to talk about them, and then I'm going to provide you with the links for them in the show notes so that you can explore them at your own leisure. And at the end, some of you have asked, I am a reluctant musician. I don't play publicly anymore. It's very rare that I play out in public. So I am sharing a little piano performance of my own at the end of the broadcast. So without further ado, I give you this very special segment that I've put together for you, and then we'll come back at the end of the show for our usual goodbyes. So this is 4 awesome YouTube music finds plus 1 extra bonus. Number 1, some orchestras are fortunate enough to have a musician on board whose charm and personality makes them excellent ambassadors, not only for the orchestra in particular, but for music in general. The Berlin Philharmonic has French horn player Sarah Willis. Sarah Willis joined the Berlin Philharmonic in 2001 under Simon Rattle as conductor, becoming the very first female brass player. Aside from having performed with a number of world-class orchestras, she involves herself in all sorts of music education pursuits on a regular basis, from French horn music camps to performing a broad variety of music. Not too long ago, Sarah Willis traveled to Havana to record a Mozart horn concerto, but having found herself there, the temptation to explore Cuban rhythms was simply too hard to resist. The adventure resulted in Sarah Willis' Mozart y Mambo, a collaboration with the Havana Lyceum Orchestra and its exuberant conductor Pepe Mendez. I will be sharing with you a 6-minute video in which she discusses the project, and you get to hear some of the wonderful music that was recorded for the CD. Not to mention the fact that if you've been to Havana, you may recognize some of the locations where the video was recorded. I most certainly did. And I will also share a link to a full documentary produced by Deutsche Welle on the trip, which includes extended interviews with some local musicians and orchestra members. Number 2, the 1968 album Switched on Bach featuring interpretations of some of the composer's most popular works performed on a synthesizer, is very dear to my heart, as it helped me discover what would become some of my favorite Bach music. The music was performed by Wendy Carlos, an American musician and composer best known for her electronic music and film scores, including Walt Disney's Tron. Incidentally, Wendy Carlos was actually born Walter Carlos, and in 1979 she was one of the first public figures to disclose having undergone sex reassignment surgery. Back to the music, the first track of the album, the Sinfonia to Cantata No. 29, is music that you may have possibly heard before. It begins like this. Sound familiar? I hope so. Bach composed over 200 cantatas. These are compositions of a religious nature written for a Baroque orchestra and a 4-part choir and soloists. These cantatas are divided in a succession of movements, and in the case of Cantata 29, the Sinfonia is the opening movement. Later on in life, I would come to learn that Bach used this particular sinfonia or movement in a different cantata as well. But more importantly, that it was not originally composed as an orchestral piece. The Sinfonia was actually the first movement of one of his violin partitas, Partita No. 3, where it is also featured as the first movement, but called Preludio or Prelude. The partitas are, of course, a series of compositions for solo violin divided into several movements. They were not originally very popular, but have become extremely important in the violin repertoire as they are performed by many violin players today. According to surviving manuscripts, though, Bach's 6 partitas were composed by 1720. Sorry about that. And in subsequent years, Bach himself transcribed this work to be performed by other instruments, such as the lute, and he also created an orchestra version, which we hear in Cantata No. 29. This is all relevant because just last week, the extraordinary Japanese-born American violinist Midori performed a stunning version of the violin Preludio at Carnegie Hall as part of their series of stay-at-home productions. Carnegie Hall has made it available through their Facebook page and YouTube channel, and I will share it with you, along with some of the other versions that you can use for comparison, because whereas the solo violin version is a mostly monophonic piece, that is, the violin plays only one note at a time, once you get to hear the Baroque orchestra version, you get to hear some of the harmonies that are very clearly present in the piece, which you cannot really hear too clearly on the violin piece. The violin piece is mostly, the cantata, or rather the prelude, is a piece that is written in mostly 16th notes. The rhythm is and so forth and so on. So these are notes one after the other, don't necessarily give you much information about what the harmony of the music is like, although many times when these pieces were performed or are performed in large spaces that have a lot of echo or have a lot of reverb in their natural acoustic, you can hear how the notes become different chords, or you can hear some of the harmonies floating in the air. Anyhow, I will leave you with a link to Midori's version, a Baroque orchestra version, and of course, French composer Camille Saint-Saëns did his own piano version of the piece, and then Sergei Rachmaninoff, the French composer and piano player, also did his own version, his being the one that is perhaps the most different from them all. It's the one that takes more artistic liberties from the original music. But I'm sure you will enjoy all 4 versions, and I think you will learn something from the piece by comparing them to one another. Number 3, it wouldn't be a complete music day without including something from Vox. You know I love Vox because of all their explainer articles, which are very, very clear and fun to read. But Vox also produces amazing videos about all kinds of topics and certainly about music. From their music series, I selected this one. It is called Why This Creepy Melody is in So Many Movies. And the documentary makes reference to a very well-known Gregorian chant called Dies Irae, or Day of Wrath. Now, you'd be amazed at the number of compositions from the classical music repertoire and from film soundtracks in which the first 4 notes of the Dies Irae have been used to indicate a moment of severe tragedy or doom. Some of the most important ones are highlighted in this awesome documentary, for which I will leave the link in the show notes, of course. Number 4, speaking of Vox, don't think for a moment that today is all or only about classical music. In Vox's amazing video series, Earworm, they have produced explainer-type video features with intriguing titles such as We Measured pop music's falsetto obsession, the ingredients of a classic house track, how smooth jazz took over the 90s, the sound that connects Stravinsky to Bruno Mars, and my personal favorite, the most feared song in jazz explained, and this is about John Coltrane's famous composition, Giant Steps. Earworm is the brainchild of Vox's Estelle Caswell, a genius producer whose description on the Vox website reads simply, I make visual treats. And she does. Everything that I've seen that is produced by Estelle is just incredible in the way in which she fuses animation with photography, video, and excellent research to explain whatever topic she has decided to explore. So I will leave you with a link to the entire playlist, out of which I truly recommend you check out the one about John Coltrane's Giant Steps. Now, for the extra bonus, I want you to meet American pianist, keyboardist, band leader, composer, and actor Herbie Hancock. His career has spanned 5 decades, during which he has received 14 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year for River, the Johnny Letters, in which he takes a number of songs by the wonderful Johnny Mitchell and he sets them to his own versions. Now, meet the amazing, one-of-a-kind Diane Reeves, a 5-time Grammy Award winner. She is one of the most extraordinary jazz vocalists in the world. I first fell in love with Diane Reeves' artistry through her 1987 album called Diane Reeves, and it was the first album to be released of hers by the renowned jazz label Blue Note. Herbie Hancock not only played in the album, but he also contributed one of his own songs. It is called Better Days. I immediately loved the song because of its beautiful melody and the arrangement, which was created by the late legendary rhythm and blues keyboardist and record producer George Duke. But also, I fell in love with the song because of its lyrics, which were composed by Herbie Hancock's sister, Jean. One of the verses really speaks to me. Think of the times that were best. Don't you find that the happiest days were the days you were kind? Anyhow, regretfully, Jean Hancock never got a chance to hear her song recorded. 2 years before Diane Reeves' album was released, on August 2nd, 1985 to be precise, Jean had been in Florida visiting family and found herself heading home to Half Moon Bay, California, where she worked as a computer consultant. She also wrote lyrics for her brother Herbie and for the soul group Earth, Wind and Fire. On the afternoon of August 2nd, her plane was making a planned stop in Dallas. She was flying on Delta Airlines Flight 191, and while on approach during a thunderstorm, the plane crashed, killing 8 of 11 crew members and 126 out of 152 passengers on board, including Jean Hancock. She was only 41 years old. I will leave you with a link to Diane Reeves's version of Harvest Time so that you can get to know the lyrics. But more important, I would like to share with you my own piano arrangement of the song, which I played and recorded a few years ago in my apartment here in Puerto Vallarta. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed those musical selections, or at least what I said about them. I sure hope that you'll be curious enough to go look at them through the show notes and enjoy them at your own leisure. I'd love to hear what you thought about the musical selections. And because I want to know what you're interested in, I would love to hear your comments about both what I chose, but also about other kinds of music that you would like us to explore together here at Coffee and Headlines. As always, I am so very grateful for the opportunity to connect with you. And whereas we're connecting with music that is not of Puerto Vallarta, I think that music is an important element in our lives, and I am just thrilled to have the opportunity to share some of my love for music with you. As I mentioned earlier, tomorrow we'll be back live tomorrow morning, so I'll have a chance to get all caught up with your comments on these past couple of days on Facebook, get all caught up with show notes and uploads to the website and to the YouTube channel. Rest assured, by this time of the trip, I am more than likely missing Luna, wanting to be back home, and quite frankly, missing you, missing the opportunity to connect and exchange messages and comments with you back and forth every morning. You say this frequently. You say that it's become part of your life. Well, be certain that it has also become part of mine. So, as always, I thank you for hanging around while I was gone, and I'm going to be very much looking forward to tell you about my trip tomorrow when I come back. In the meantime, as always, please stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, stay kind, and of course, stay in touch. See you tomorrow.